Have you ever wondered, why is it that even when we seem to have everything, the job, the home, the relationship, the followers, the recognition, something inside us still feels unsettled, like a silent ache beneath the surface, a restless whisper that says, "This isn't it." We chase, we collect, we achieve, and yet, the peace we long for seems to slip through our fingers like grains of sand. It doesn't matter how much we own, how many milestones we conquer, or how many people chant our name. Somehow we remain bound. But what if I told you, the real prison isn't made of stone walls or iron bars? It isn't the job you dislike. It isn't the relationship that weighs you down. It's not the expectations placed upon you by family, society, or the world. The real prison is built inside the mind. And the chains, they're invisible, but they're there, tightly wound around our hearts and our thoughts. They pull us into endless cycles of craving, clinging, fearing, and regretting. The ancient sages, thousands of years ago, spoke of this prison. They gave it a name, attachment. It's not a word we use often today, not in its true sense. We think of attachment as something innocent, loving someone, caring about our dreams, holding on to what matters. But what if that very attachment is the root of our silent suffering? Attachment isn't love. It isn't passion. It's the need to possess, to control, to make permanent what is by nature fleeting. It's when we can't let go of people, of outcomes, of the past, of the image we've built for ourselves. And so we find ourselves trapped, not by the world, but by our desperate attempt to hold the world still. Imagine a man standing by a river, trying to catch every leaf that floats by, terrified to let any of them go, exhausted, anxious, and endlessly occupied. That's us, every day, clutching at moments, possessions, identities, and relationships, afraid that if we let go, we'll lose ourselves. But here's the secret most never realize. We're not meant to hold the leaves. We're meant to watch them float. The Buddha once said, "Attachment is the root of all suffering." And while those words might sound ancient, their truth is as raw and real today as it was 2,500 years ago. Look around. We chase likes on a screen. We cling to titles and roles as if they define our worth. We hoard experiences and possessions to fill a void we can't quite name. And we fear, above all else, losing the very things we've tied our happiness to. But no one teaches us how to be free. We grow up learning how to win, how to gather, how to keep, but not how to let go. Not how to exist fully in the now without fastening ourselves to what might be, what could have been, or what we believe should be. And so we suffer, silently, daily. Even in moments of joy, a subtle anxiety hums beneath the surface. How long will this last? The truth is, nothing lasts. Every relationship, every success, every stage of life is like a wave rising, cresting, falling, and dissolving. Yet we live as if we can hold the wave at its peak forever. And when it crashes, we break with it. But what if freedom wasn't found in stopping the waves, but in learning to surf them? What if peace came not from controlling life, but from releasing our need to control? Not detachment, as in apathy or coldness, but non-attachment. A state of mind where you can love fully, engage passionately, and care deeply without clinging, without the invisible chains. This isn't about renouncing the world or giving up your dreams. It's about moving through life with an open hand, not a clenched fist. The masters teach us, freedom is not the absence of problems. It's the absence of attachment to the outcomes of those problems. It's when your heart can remain steady whether you win or lose, whether you're praised or blamed, whether life goes your way or crumbles in your hands. It's when you realize you were never meant to own the things you love. You were meant to experience them, appreciate them, and let them go. As the river keeps flowing. This journey, the path to a mind unchained, isn't a quick one. It requires seeing through the illusions we've built around ourselves, peeling back the layers of need, fear, and longing. But those who have walked this path speak of a quiet joy, a serenity that doesn't depend on what they have, who they are, or what comes next. A life lived not in constant pursuit but in steady presence. So tonight, pause, look around you, notice the invisible chains, and ask yourself, what am I clinging to? Because the moment you begin to see the prison is the moment you start to become free. So what exactly is attachment? We throw that word around, don't we? I'm attached to my family. I'm attached to my career. I'm attached to my phone. But what does it truly mean? And why did one of the wisest minds in history declare it the very root of human suffering? To understand attachment, we must first understand the nature of our mind. The human mind, by design, craves certainty. It seeks security in a world that offers none. It clings to what feels pleasant, avoids what feels painful, and desperately tries to hold on to the things and people that bring us joy. At its core, attachment is this desperate grip. It's the belief that certain people, things, or circumstances are essential for our happiness, and that losing them would shatter us. But here's the hidden danger. Everything we cling to is impermanent. The world is in a constant state of flux. Seasons change, bodies age, fortunes rise and fall. Even emotions, those intense storms within us, pass, leaving only faint ripples behind. Yet our attachments convince us otherwise. They whisper, this must stay. This must never change. This person must never leave. And when life, in its natural, unpredictable rhythm, refuses to obey, we suffer. It's not the events themselves that torment us, it's our resistance to them. When a loved one walks away, we ache, not just because they're gone, but because we had tied our sense of self to them. When a career crumbles, we grieve, not only for the job, but for the identity we built around it. When youth fades from our skin and hair, we panic because we clung so tightly to an image we believed defined our worth. The sages taught, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, because pain is part of life. You will lose things. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Your body will age. But suffering, that agonizing, prolonged torment, arises when we refuse to let go. When we battle reality, demanding it be something it no longer is. And attachment is the fuel of that battle. Think about it. You drink a cup of tea. It's warm, soothing, perfect in that moment. But as it cools, you feel a hint of disappointment. Not because tea turning cold is tragic, but because you clung to the pleasure of its warmth, wishing it would stay just a little longer. Now multiply that tiny ache 1,000-fold with the things you hold dearest. That's the suffering attachment brings, but it gets subtler. Attachment isn't only about clinging to what's pleasant. It's also about clinging to what's familiar, even when it hurts. Why do people stay in toxic relationships? Why do we sabotage our own growth, afraid of stepping beyond the known? Because we're attached not to joy, but to familiarity, to the illusion of safety in what's predictable. The Buddha described this beautifully with the image of a man wounded by an arrow. Instead of pulling it out, the man obsesses. Who shot me? From where? What kind of arrow is this? What wood is the shaft made of? And while he's consumed by questions, he continues to bleed. That's us. Distracted by stories, labels, explanations, all the while clinging to the very things causing our pain. The truth is, attachment can disguise itself. It can look like love, like loyalty, like ambition. But underneath, it's the fear of loss wearing a mask. And until we learn to recognize it, it silently governs our decisions. But let's be clear, releasing attachment doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It doesn't mean becoming cold, indifferent, or detached in the modern sense of the word. It means loving without clinging, dreaming without demanding, caring without controlling. It's knowing that nothing lasts and choosing to cherish it anyway. Imagine holding a beautiful bird in your palm. You could squeeze it, desperate to keep it, and in doing so, harm it. Or you could admire it, feel its warmth, and when the time comes, let it fly. That's non-attachment. It's a shift from ownership to experience, from fear to presence, from grasping to gratitude. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free." And that doesn't only apply to people. It applies to everything. To your dreams, your possessions, your titles, your past. When we loosen our grip, something extraordinary happens. We begin to taste a freedom no external condition can offer. A peace that doesn't depend on whether life obeys our wishes. A joy that arises, not from having everything, but from needing nothing. This is what the Buddha meant when he pointed to attachment as the root of suffering. It's not the things we have, or the people we cherish, or the goals we pursue. It's our refusal to let them change, leave, or end. The chains we forged in the mind. But the beauty of this truth is that once we see those chains, we can choose to set ourselves free. And that is where the real journey begins. In the ancient world, attachments took the form of land, livestock, family, honor. Today, they wear different faces. A shiny car parked in the driveway, a blue checkmark on a social media profile, a number on a bank statement, the likes beneath a photo, the illusion of control over a future we cannot guarantee. Modern life, with all its conveniences, hasn't freed us from attachment. In many ways, it has amplified it. We live in an era that whispers, "You are what you own, you are how you look, you are what others think of you." And so we cling, desperately, to youth, to titles, to relationships that no longer nourish us, to expectations no one agreed to fulfill. But the real question is, how does this affect us in the silent spaces of our own minds? Consider this. You wake up, reach for your phone before your feet touch the ground. A message you didn't expect, a like you hoped for missing, a post from someone living the life you wish you had. A knot forms in your chest, not because your life has truly worsened since yesterday, not because you lost a loved one or suffered injustice, but because your attachment to validation, to comparison, to constant distraction tightens its grip. You carry that unease into your day, into your meetings, your conversations, your commute. Each moment slightly out of reach as your mind spins stories of what should be, what could have been, what you fear might happen. This is modern suffering, and it's everywhere. We chase promotions not just to grow, but to outrun the emptiness whispering, "Without this title, you are less." We curate perfect images, not for art's sake, but for the silent applause we hope will fill the spaces we won't acknowledge. We plan vacations, weddings, even simple weekends, clinging to the fantasy of how it must unfold, only to suffer when reality dares to be imperfect. We attach ourselves to outcomes, to people behaving a certain way, to the illusion that life should bend to our script. And when it does, frustration, anxiety, envy, bitterness. The world isn't cruel, it's indifferent. It changes, it shifts, it moves to its own rhythm. But our attachments demand it stay frozen in a version that makes us comfortable. And so we suffer not because of what happens, but because of how tightly we hold on. A friend cancels plans. We feel rejected. A colleague outperforms us. We feel diminished. A relationship changes. We grieve not just the person, but the identity we built around being theirs. And yet, we rarely pause to ask, is this attachment serving me? Or is it quietly destroying my peace? The Buddha warned of this trap. That craving not for food, shelter, or safety, but for control, for permanence in an impermanent world, is the invisible net we keep casting, only to ensnare ourselves. But it gets trickier. Modern culture rewards attachment. The one who grinds endlessly for success. The influencer who chases the next viral moment. The lover who refuses to let go, clinging to nostalgia's ghost. We romanticize the struggle, the relentless pursuit. We call it passion, commitment, ambition, and in moderation perhaps it is. But when it consumes us, when our happiness hinges entirely on outcomes we can't guarantee, we suffer silently while the world claps. Ask yourself, how many sleepless nights have been spent replaying conversations you can't undo? How many hours stolen by jealousy over someone else's highlight reel? How much energy wasted resisting a change that had already arrived? These are the hidden costs of attachment. It's not only about possessions or people. It's about ideas too. We attach to beliefs. I should be married by 30. A good life looks like this. Success means having that. And when life's script dares to differ, we grieve an expectation that was never promised. In a way, we become prisoners of our own unexamined desires. But in here lies the beauty: we don't have to. The ancient masters didn't preach withdrawal from life. They spoke of engaging fully without chains, to love but not possess, to strive but not attach, to dream but not demand. And in doing so, to walk through modern life's noise and temptation, untouched at the core. Because when you no longer hinge your worth on the things you can lose, the world loses its power to wound you. You can admire the car without needing to own it. You can celebrate a friend's success without feeling less. You can face a setback without questioning your worth. That is freedom, not absence of desire, but absence of enslavement. The world will continue to shout, to seduce, to offer and take away. But the one who has loosened the grip of attachment moves through it all like a lotus through muddy water, untouched, unbroken, fully alive. And isn't that what we truly long for? Freedom, a word we all crave. But if you ask 100 people what it means, you'll hear 100 different answers. Some say it's financial security. Some claim it's the ability to go wherever you please, whenever you choose. Others dream of a life untouched by obligations, responsibilities, or expectations. But here's the quiet truth no one tells you. You can have money, status, and total control over your schedule, and still be a prisoner inside your own mind. Because the greatest captivity is invisible. It's the subtle, persistent weight of attachments we refuse to loosen. The opinions of others, the fear of not having enough, the identity we build around our careers, our relationships, our possessions. We call it ambition, loyalty, commitment, but beneath it often hides a silent dependency. If I lose this, I lose myself. And in that space, real freedom dies. But what if it didn't have to? What if freedom wasn't about breaking away from life's demands, but about changing the way we hold them? This is what the ancient masters meant by a non-attached mind. Not a numb, indifferent heart. Not a withdrawn, cold existence. But a mind that engages fully, without clinging. You see, attachment isn't the same as love. It isn't the same as ambition. It's the difference between holding a bird gently in your hand and squeezing it so tightly you crush it in fear of losing it. When your mind is non-attached, you still feel joy. You still grieve. You still long for beautiful things, meaningful connections, purposeful work. But you are no longer enslaved by the outcome. You can love someone deeply without trying to own them. You can work toward a dream without tying your worth to its arrival. You can lose something valuable without losing yourself. And in that space, life stops feeling so fragile. The things you once feared become lighter, not because you've hardened, but because you understand their impermanence. That job title you fought so hard for, it may fade. That relationship you thought would last forever, it might change. Your youth, your possessions, your reputation, all subject to time, but your peace needn't be. When the mind ceases to cling, it begins to soar. The non-attached mind walks into a room without needing to impress. It listens to criticism without crumbling. It faces uncertainty without panic. It enjoys beauty without demanding it lasts forever. It is not a life of emptiness, but one of deep, unshakable fullness. Because everything you experience is a gift, not a guarantee. And when you stop demanding permanence from impermanent things, you're no longer devastated when they shift. It's like walking through a garden. You admire the bloom of the flowers, knowing they'll wither. You bask in the warmth of the sun, aware it will set. And because you no longer demand that it stays, you're free to enjoy it while it's here. This is invisible freedom. The world sees you smiling in difficult moments and calls you brave. It watches you let go of things others would cling to and calls you strong. But inside, you know it's neither bravery nor strength. It's clarity. A simple, unshakable understanding of how life works. Everything comes, everything goes, and in the space between you are here fully, deeply, and peacefully. You still care, you still try, but you no longer cling. The Buddha once said, "Let go of attachment to outcomes, and you'll walk through this world untouchable, like a lotus flower untouched by the mud it grows in." The world will test you. Opportunities will arise and fall away. People will adore you, disappoint you, leave you. Plans will unravel. The things you built may one day crumble. But when you've freed your mind from its need to control, to possess, to attach, none of it can imprison you. You'll move through heartbreak without bitterness, through success without arrogance, through uncertainty without fear. Because your peace no longer lives in things, it lives in you. And in that state, every moment is enough, not because it's perfect, not because it meets your expectations, but because you are finally free from needing it to. That is the invisible freedom of a non-attached mind, not a life absent of pain or loss, but a life untouched by their power to break you. And once you've tasted it, nothing else will do. Now that we've glimpsed the quiet, invisible freedom of a non-attached mind, a question naturally rises. How do we live like that? It's easy to admire wisdom when it's dressed in ancient robes and spoken in serene temples. But what about here, now, in traffic jams, in crowded offices, in relationships tangled with history and hope? How do we practice non-attachment in a world that constantly tells us to hold tighter? The answer is quietly simple. And it begins not by giving everything up, but by changing the way we hold what's in our hands. Non-attachment isn't about owning nothing. It's about nothing owning you. And that shift starts with awareness. The first step is to notice what you cling to. What makes you restless when it changes? What makes you anxious when it's threatened? What steals your sleep, your peace, your breath? Is it your job title, your partner's affection, your appearance in the mirror, your follower count, the plan you made for your future? Notice it, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Because what you cannot see, you cannot loosen. Once you've spotted your attachments, practice loosening your grip. Not by force, not by shame, but by asking yourself a simple, powerful question. If this left me today, would I still be whole? If the answer is no, that's where your work begins. And your work is not to throw it away. It's to see it for what it truly is, temporary, a role, a possession, a moment of beauty. And like everything in this world, it came with an expiration date the moment it arrived. When you remember this, you begin to love things and people in a more honest, generous way. You stop clinging out of fear. You stop demanding that they stay or behave or fill a hole inside you. And in doing so, you paradoxically deepen your connection to them. Because non-attachment doesn't mean disengagement. It means loving fully while knowing nothing can be held forever. The second practice is to become intimately familiar with impermanence. Start small. Watch a sunset without trying to capture it. Drink a cup of tea while being fully present for its warmth, its aroma, knowing it will cool. Listen to your favorite song, not on repeat, but savoring it once, as if it were the last time. These small moments train your heart to release its demand for permanence. They teach you to experience life as it unfolds, not as you wish it to be. And over time, you'll find it becomes easier to face bigger impermanences. A lost opportunity, a relationship that changes, a season of life closing. The practice of non-attachment strengthens your spirit for these inevitabilities, not by making you cold, but by making you resilient. The third practice is to sit with discomfort. When you feel anxiety rise because something you wanted is slipping away, stay. When you feel the ache of longing for something out of reach, stay. Not to punish yourself, but to witness how clinging feels in the body, in the mind. Notice how attachment tightens your chest, how it clouds your thoughts, how it narrows your world to a single desperate need. I must have this to be okay. And then with a breath, gently remind yourself, this too will pass. Not as a cliche, but as a fact. Nothing, no pleasure, no pain, no possession, no moment lasts forever. And when you can sit with that truth, you'll find that what once terrified you loses its grip. You begin to trust that peace isn't found in grasping tighter. It's in loosening just enough to let life flow as it must. Lastly, practice gratitude without possession. When good things come, receive them with open hands. When they leave, let them go with a quiet bow. Thank the people who cross your path, not for staying, but for walking alongside you as long as they could. Thank your joys, not for lasting, but for visiting. Thank your challenges, not for punishing you, but for sharpening you. And in this practice, you'll discover a stunning paradox. The less you cling, the deeper you feel. The more you let go, the more life gives. Because life was never meant to be a possession. It was meant to be a current you move with, a dance you join in, a mystery you witness. And the heart trained in non-attachment does not numb itself to sorrow or joy. It meets both as honored guests, each with their message, each with their impermanence. So start today, not by renouncing the world, but by releasing your demand for it to be unchanging. Love fiercely, work passionately, dream boldly, but hold it all lightly. And in that gentle looseness, you'll discover a freedom no one can take. A freedom you don't need to chase, because it's been with you all along. Sometimes ideas feel distant, abstract, beautiful, yes, but belonging to philosophers in ancient temples or sages on mountain peaks. But the truth is, the wisdom of non-attachment lives quietly among us, in ordinary people, in ordinary lives, in moments that seem small but carry the weight of entire worlds shifting. Let me tell you a few stories. The first is about a woman named Eliza. Eliza spent 15 years building her dream business. She poured everything into it, her time, her money, her identity. It wasn't just a company, it was her reflection in the world. And then, in a season of unexpected change, a market crash, a partner betrayal, it slipped from her hands. Gone overnight. For weeks, she couldn't breathe without the ache of loss. She wasn't grieving just a job, she was grieving who she thought she was. But one morning, sitting in a park with nothing left to manage, no meetings to rush to, no reputation to uphold, she noticed something strange. The sun still rose, the birds still sang, and for the first time in years she felt light. No pressure, no identity to defend, no ladder to climb. In losing what she clung to, she gained what she never thought to chase, freedom. Not the kind you find in external success, but the kind born from realizing you are more than the titles you wear. Years later, she rebuilt, slower this time, gentler, but she tells me she never clings to outcomes anymore. She shows up, she gives, and she lets life decide. And she's never been more alive. Then there's Samir. Samir's story is quieter but no less profound. He spent years chasing love. Relationship after relationship, always gripping tight, terrified of being left. And as it often happens, the tighter he clung, the faster they fled. One evening, after yet another heartbreak, Samir sat alone in his apartment, staring at a cup of cold tea. And something inside him finally softened. He realized he wasn't afraid of losing love, he was afraid of being alone with himself. So he did the one thing he'd always avoided. He stayed, alone, for weeks, for months. He took walks. He read books. He sat with his sadness, his longing, his restless need to grasp. And in that space, something unexpected happened. The loneliness didn't devour him. It taught him. It showed him that he could be whole without someone else completing him. That love given freely, not out of fear, but out of abundance, feels entirely different. Years later, he married. And when I asked him what made it work, he smiled and said, "Because this time I wasn't holding on for dear life. I was walking beside her." Then there's a story closer to home, maybe yours. A woman standing at her father's hospital bed, watching the man who raised her take his final breaths. She wanted to scream, to freeze time, to cling to one more day. But in those final moments, she held his hand and whispered, "It's okay, Dad, you can go." And something in the room shifted. Grief didn't leave, it never does. But in letting him go, she honored his life more than if she'd clung to his fading body. And years later, every time she misses him, she remembers. What we let go of doesn't disappear. It transforms. It walks with us lighter, freer. You see, non-attachment isn't cold. It isn't indifferent. It's a deeper kind of love, one that holds with open palms. It says, "I cherish you. I value this. But I will not imprison you or myself in fear of loss." Because loss comes anyway. And when you learn to let go, you stop losing. You start gaining something far more precious, presence. Real-life stories remind us this isn't a philosophy meant only for monks. It's a wisdom waiting to unfold in your daily commute, your heartbreak, your victories, your grief. Every time you release the demand for things to stay, to satisfy, to save you, you step closer to a freedom no one can take. So look around. The people sitting beside you, the job you hold, the beauty you chase, the sorrows you fear. All of it is passing. And that's not a threat, it's a gift. Because when you realize nothing can be held forever, you begin to hold it differently, softer, kinder, more honestly. And in that space, you discover what those ancient sages knew all along. A mind without attachment isn't empty. It's vast, expansive, alive. And it's right here, available in the ordinary days you've been rushing through. In a moment, we'll gather everything we've explored, the chains we couldn't see, the roots of suffering, the way attachments shape our modern lives, and the quiet, invisible freedom of release. But first, take a breath. Feel this life moving through you without needing to possess it. And know this is what it feels like to be free. So here we are, at the end of a journey that, in truth, never really ends. We've traveled through the invisible chains we wear. We've seen how attachment, subtle, sticky, persistent, weaves itself into our choices, our fears, our very identities. We've watched how modern life, with its glittering promises, binds us in ways even ancient monks never imagined. And yet, through it all, we've uncovered something timeless, a truth older than mountains, more constant than the rising sun, that it is not life itself that torments us, but the way we cling to it. It's the tight grip, the desperate holding, the belief that this thing, this person, this moment must stay, or we won't survive without it. But as the ancient teachers whispered, and as ordinary people still prove every single day, when you loosen your grasp, when you let the river flow without trying to dam it, when you release the story that you are incomplete, when you stop demanding that life obey your terms, something astonishing happens. You don't disappear, you don't become numb, you don't stop caring, you become free. Free to love without fear, free to succeed without vanity, free to lose without breaking, free to live this life fully, honestly, fiercely, because you're no longer enslaved by the illusion of permanence. A mind without attachment isn't a void. It isn't cold detachment or withdrawal. It's a vast, open sky where thoughts, emotions, people, and events move like clouds. Some dark, some dazzling, all passing. And beneath it all, you remain, unshaken, spacious, aware. This is not about giving everything up. It's about giving up the illusion that you must control it to be okay. And when you do that, you stop chasing peace because you realize you were standing in it all along. The sages knew this. The mothers sitting by their children's hospital beds know it. The man learning to be alone after a lifetime of chasing love learns it. And now, maybe, just maybe, so do you. Not as a perfect, unbroken enlightenment, but as a seed. A small, bright awareness planted quietly in the soil of your being. From here, life won't suddenly become easy, but it will become honest, and strangely, beautifully enough. You'll still have bills, and heartbreak, and late-night doubts, but you'll meet them with a different mind, a free mind, one that can hold joy without fearing its loss, one that can witness pain without being devoured, one that can cherish people without imprisoning them in your expectations. And slowly, moment by moment, you'll learn to walk this world like the sages did. Not above life, but through it. As water moves through a stream, as wind moves through trees, as sunlight moves through the hours of a day, nothing clung to, nothing pushed away, everything received, everything released. And in that simple, sacred rhythm, you'll find yourself, not the self you constructed to impress or protect, but the self that existed before you forgot how to be free. So before this final word leaves your ears, pause, breathe, notice this moment, not as a thing to capture, but as a guest passing through. Thank it, and let it go, because the life of a free mind isn't waiting in a monastery. It isn't waiting in a book. It isn't even waiting at the end of this video. It's right here, where you are, always was, always will be. And if you remember nothing else from this journey, remember this: you were born free. And freedom is not something you find, it's something you remember.